fight fans? We're back for yet another week of interviews and fights here for the Shootin' the Shit podcast here on the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network. Really excited this week. We got a big guest here. We got Devin Hannibal Nicholson. We call him Hannibal. Really interesting guy to talk to. Hannibal, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. Just finished an interview with Mark Kerr, the Smashing Machine, so was really happy about that. It went pretty well.
Yeah, Mark Kerr, and our people should know Mark Kerr as well, from the MMA world. Mark Kerr was one of the OGs of the UFC world. So if you guys are obviously into, looking at these kind of interviews, check out Hannibal's, his station, his network for that Mark Kerr interview. I'm sure it's probably great. I was talking to Mark Kerr. He's, like I said, he's an OG. So
it was good. And yeah, you guys can look it up, The Hannibal TV on YouTube. We're also on Instagram and Twitter at The Hannibal TV. But Mark Kerr, he seems to be pretty well together now. You talk to some of these MMA guys. We don't just do wrestling interviews. I've interviewed boxers, fighters, kickboxers, MMA fighters. And some of them, not only MMA, but wrestlers, you can tell they have CTE damage.
Yeah.
But Mark seems pretty sharp for the amount of fights he's been in.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that, when I was looking at fights back in the day, Mark Kerr did not take a lot of damage to the head. I mean, he was, for a wrestler, he was a guy that definitely kept his hands up and was definitely a guy that always was making sure that he was on his P's and Q's. A guy that should have probably, in my opinion, probably gone farther in MMA than he did. I mean, and actually, here's the thing too, he's a guy that should have probably in pro wrestling did more than he did. He was very minimal in that, Could you just comment on Mark Kerr in terms of, what you think he could have done as a pro wrestler? Because he reminded me a lot of a couple of the guys that,
Well, he didn't really have the love for pro wrestling. As he stated in this, he got paid a huge amount of money for the pro wrestling fights he had in Japan. But that company he was wrestling for went out of business.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, he would have kept doing it. He did get a WWE offer, but at that time, you were on the road 300 days a year, and he was making more money fighting. So he didn't take the WWE's offer for that reason. And then his issues are well documented in his Smashing Machine movie.
Yeah.
And The Rock is actually doing a movie about his life where The Rock is going to play Mark.
Oh, really?
So yeah, that's going to make him incredibly well known as a fighter in the years to come. But that's why he didn't do pro wrestling. He certainly could have, with the fame that he had from UFC and Pride. He won 2 UFC tournaments, so technically 2-time UFC champion.
Yeah, and what's funny is Dan Severn, and I know you've talked to Dan Severn before, is he, the one you think of when it comes to UFC and pro wrestling, he's the first guy you come to, but Mark Kerr really should have been the first guy you thought of, and he just never really pursued it, and it's kind of mind-boggling because he could have made a lot of money going into the pro wrestling realm. I'm sure you would agree with that.
Yeah, and another guy that could have, who I've also interviewed, is a fellow Hammer House guy, Mark Coleman. He could have done a lot better in wrestling. Yeah,
Mark Coleman was an animal, dude. I mean, I was watching a highlight tape of him the other day, and just he if he would have came into the sport a couple years after he did, because he came in, when it was very young, if he would have came in a few years after that, I don't think there was too many guys that would have been, as good as Mark Coleman was, given the, abilities he had as a wrestler, as an athlete, because he was really not a complete mixed martial artist, but that's how good he was. He was still winning fights despite that.
That is true. He was doing great. But yeah, he got derailed too. And as he self-admitted, sometimes he didn't train as hard as he could have.
Yeah.
He did the best when he isolated himself and did nothing but train for fights, but he didn't always do that. And he accepted some fights on short notice.
Yep.
He did accept the one predetermined fight there in Pride.
Yeah.
Supposedly he was paid $60,000. to do the job for. So that hurt him a bit. But
Yeah, I
he
remember
did well
that.
in wrestling too. He should have continued in wrestling.
Yeah, I think, and that's another thing. Like, I think Mark Coleman, and this was a guy I always had his name written down because when I had you on the list for guys I was going to talk to, Mark Coleman would have been a very Scott Steiner like guy in pro wrestling, in my opinion, because he was he was a bit of he was a hothead, but he was a guy that was very athletic. You tell him what to do, you give him the stones. He would be a guy in pro wrestling that would be very, very marketable. And like I said, I think he would be, not Scott Steiner, but he'd be a very Scott Steiner-like pro wrestler.
He lacks desire, I find, and it's unfortunate because he doesn't even do autograph conventions. And he basically, like, he made money, but his wife pretty much runs the household. But it's like, if he actually wanted to do the autograph convention circuit, he could, and he would make decent money, but he just doesn't really motivate himself to get out there and make money off of his name, and hopefully it'll change.
Are you saying he's more marketable than Virgil?
Yes.
All right, now for a lot of fans here who are MMA fans, but first off, we don't have to discuss who Virgil is because if you don't know who Virgil is, not my problem. Is Virgil more marketable than Mark Coleman?
No, but supposedly people want me to interview Virgil.
Really?
I brought it up as a joke a couple of times, and now everybody is harassing me. But surprise, surprise, he doesn't have a cell phone or a computer. So his agent told me next time they do like an autograph convention together, the agent will try and get it done on the cell phone. So we'll see. But supposedly he was a boxer. I don't know if that was a work or not, but
I had heard he was a pretty good amateur wrestler. I don't know about boxing, but I heard he was a pretty good amateur wrestler. I don't know if you heard that as well.
I didn't. I only remember whenever he did the little shuffle when he was a baby face, they would mention that he used to amateur box, but I never really looked into Virgil or studied him. If I get the interview, I'll actually delve deep into that, but you're correct. We're wasting time talking about him. He was also known as Curly Bill in WCW.
That was the first thing I was thinking of. I'm pretty sure his name was like Curly Bob or something. Curly Bill. It was Curly Bill.
When they had the West Texas Rednecks and people were afraid that they were coming off as racist, so they like threw Virgil in there, who completely didn't. Like, he stood out so badly. And I asked Barry Windham, when I interviewed Barry Windham, did he drive with you guys? And Barry was like, no. So it was like Virgil would just meet them at the arenas.
That is so funny, honestly. Now, Hannibal, obviously it has been very documented that you know what you're doing when it comes to, fighting a little bit. I think the most famous video, and I'll be honest with you, the video that I became aware of you was the work shoot or the shoot with Lanny Poffo, which, if it wasn't for Wayne, as we call him, I think everybody would have bought that a little harder. So, do you have a fighting background? Like, what's your background? Have you had some fights? Like, just kind of introduce us to you in terms of your fighting background.
Well, I was a freestyle wrestling national champion. I was Olympic trial silver medalist in Greco-Roman wrestling 10 years later. After I quit wrestling to go into pro wrestling, I went back into amateur wrestling before the London Olympics for a year. And I did a bunch of... Pardon me?
Was that 2012 or was that 12,
2012.
Right? Okay.
So I hadn't wrestled amateur since 2001, and I came back. I actually turned down scholarships. I had one to Simon Fraser in BC, where a lot of Olympians come from, and also to University of Buffalo, which is a Division I. But I really wanted to be a pro wrestler. So stupidly, I should have just taken those scholarships, and I would have been recruited out of amateur wrestling, but I went right into pro wrestling. Around 2008, I did start doing grappling training, and I won the Canadian Open in grappling.
Nice.
I won the Ontario's heavyweight and absolute. At one point, unfortunately, I was going to fight MMA, but my story's been well documented. At one point in time, I'd been training for like 2 years in MMA, and I was actually in like amazing shape. And at the same time, I got a WWE tryout.
Yeah.
They did hire me off of that tryout, but at that point, I found out I had Hep C.
Yeah.
So not only did they take away my contract, but that contract was offered in June. That August, I was supposed to have an MMA fight.
No shit.
Because I was already planning to fight. And obviously, I couldn't get sanctioned for MMA. So that never happened.
Was it,
by the time
was it amateur or was it pro?
It was pro. I was
no shit. Okay.
Yeah. It was going to be in Hull, Quebec on a big show. At the time, the pro company that was running, they were also using Glenn Kolka, who was a football player and wrestler that had some MMA fights, won 3, I think, then got his ass kicked. But yeah, they were going to use me. Mind you, I would have just had that one fight and then gone to WWE, but that disease killed both opportunities for me. And then by the time I got cured, I did eventually get cured 5 years later. And at that point, it's like at that point. But as far as kickboxing fights, I had 3 kickboxing exhibitions.
Nice.
I have a great grappling record. I've rarely lost in grappling. I can't even remember the last time I was pinned in amateur wrestling. And I was a bouncer off and on from 2001 to 2018. So I have been attacked literally hundreds and hundreds of times.
For sure.
So most of my fights have been bouncing related.
So that's a great thing because I've also bounced myself. I'm not as big as you. I'll try to flex a little bit, but you got any good bouncing stories?
There's a lot.
Just give us 1 or 2.
Okay, there's one. There's a lot of good ones, but I don't know if I want to get myself in too much trouble.
Anyone that you're not going to get legally in trouble, go ahead.
There was one guy that thought I was at the top of the stairs when I was throwing him out.
Yeah.
He was getting in a fight. I had brought him off the dance floor, given him to the bouncers to take him outside. The staircase was like 50 feet long. He thought that I wasn't going to chase him. I was still at the top when the other guys were taking him to the door, and he like stuck out his tongue at me before he left, and I managed to catch him down the street and teach him a lesson. That was one fun one. There's a lot. I've told this one before on my channel. There's actually a lot. Some of them involve heavy people that I could still get heat from if I bring it up. So I won't do that.
Yeah, don't say nothing that's going to get you in trouble. Don't say nothing that's going to get you in trouble. Whatever's not going to get you in trouble, go for it.
Yeah, this one was really funny. It was at that same bar. There was like 2 staircases, and in the middle was like the coat check. And it was at the end of the night again. I was always at the top of the stairs because that way I could actually see down on the dance floor and also keep an eye if they needed me outside. But this in Ontario here, you're not allowed to smoke in bars.
Yeah. And
this guy was getting his coat and he lit up his cigarette inside. And he didn't realize I was watching him from the top of the stairs, but there was also a bouncer, a smaller one in the middle of the stairs.
God.
And he was telling the guy to put his cigarette out. And at this time, it was the end of the night. Yeah. And the guy was like a football player type, like 6'6", 300 pounds. Yeah. And he like took a drag off the cigarette and blew it in my friend's face. And I actually ran like halfway down the first flight of stairs and did like a flying body tackle to the guy. He literally missed the whole second flight of stairs, and his neck like whacked the cement at the bottom of the staircase, and he was like completely knocked out. And luckily we weren't wearing uniforms at this bar. So the bouncers were just dressed as in street clothes. The manager just came to me, and I had a hood, and he was like, Devin, put your hood on, walk out the back door, go to your car, and get the hell out of here. Because, like, we didn't know what was going to happen to that guy. There was another bad one. I used to always work at places that involved stairs.
Yeah, as far as I was told, Boss Rudin always says don't bounce at a place that has stairs, and then of course you're working at all these bars that got stairs.
Yeah, like it's really fun to throw people downstairs, I will admit that. But this was one that actually scared me. I was working alone. It was like a Sunday night, and it was at a strip club, and I always had this Sunday night shift alone. So whenever I was working alone, you always kind of throw people out harder than if you have people backing you up.
I can back that one up on you 100%.
Yeah, because like you could get your ass kicked otherwise, or it'll cause more problems.
Yeah, you gotta keep an eye on yourself, right?
Exactly. And this guy was like getting kicked out, but he was really being lippy, and I didn't even want to beat him up. He was smaller than me. And I was like doing everything I could not to do anything to him. Then he starts like standing like on the edge of the stairs and pushing me and poking at me. So I finally just lost it, and I pushed him down the stairs. And then I was so mad, I actually was going down to like grab him by the neck and throw him down the second flight of stairs, because this was a different bar. There was like one set of stairs, a flat part, then you had to turn and go down the second step. And when I went to grab him, his eyes were literally rolled back at the back of his head. And I'm like, oh fuck, is this guy dead? I thought he may have been dead. So I actually picked him up like a baby, walked him outside, walked like 100 feet past my bar to another one. Again, it was a Sunday night. The streets weren't that busy. And then I went up to tell the manager, I'm like, I think I'm going to have to get out of here. I don't know what's going to happen, but this guy is not moving. And I was actually very scared at this point. And he's like, okay, let me go check on him. Let me see what's going on. So he said he went out there, and by this time there was like a whole bunch of people around him, like worried about him and wondering what the hell was going on.
This motherfucker was breathing when we left him here.
Yeah. And then what happened was, I guess, you know, when you wake up from being knocked out, you kind of are like in shock.
Yeah, that was me this morning.
I guess like after 5 minutes, the manager's out there and the guy just kind of jumped up, and the manager just kind of pushed him directly in the car and said, get this guy in the cab, because there was cabs out front.
Yeah, sure,
got him out of there. So thank God he got out of there, and we never heard anything further from that.
Well, that's a good thing.
There's a ton of stories like that, just ton of attack. But I try not to punch as much as possible.
Yeah, no, I was the same way. I'm the same way. When I was bouncing, I always there was two things. The first thing would be the hug press, and then the second thing was the chokehold. So I would hug you, and if you didn't realize that I was being serious, that I wasn't hugging you hard enough, then I put you in a chokehold. And I'm sure you were the same way. I mean, you're probably more professional than I am. So,
it really depends, like what kind of bars you work at, because there's some that I work, especially when I was younger. If you work at a bar that has a lot of fights, like let's say 6 to 8 fights a night, you're going to lose your sympathy for people pretty fast. Whereas if it's like one fight a night, you're not going to go nuts on people. But at some point, some people you might throw out and do nothing. Others you might throw out, stomp them.
100%. And you kind of grow sympathy for the guys that are like, they're like, hey, yeah, and you're like, I'm like, yeah, you can be nice as you want to be, but I'm still gonna throw your fucking ass out. But it's not, it's not gonna be as hard because you're a nice guy. And then there's those douchebags that are just like, yeah, I mean, oh, you ain't gonna throw me out. I know the owner. I'm like, I know the owner too, motherfucker. I'm still gonna throw you out by your hair, So.
Yeah.
The
worst is the ones that that say that they know the owners. That really pisses me off.
100%.
But
100%. Those are the
also, if I
guys.
see guys hitting girls, I'll just snap and attack. I kind of lose all sympathy at that point.
I will say that I've never actually had that as a bounce. When I bounced, I've never actually seen a guy hit a girl. So thank God, because if I did, I'd probably bite their fucking nose off. I'd go Haku and bite their fucking nose off or bite their eye out.
Yeah, it's fun. I had a lot of attacks. Like I also did concert security
Oh,
for
did you?
years, and
Did you
I
ever do
won't get into it
Nickelback?
all. But oh God, people! I would always be stage security. So when people would try and jump, I'd be in charge of grabbing them, and oftentimes they would fight back. And
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
sometimes
that's
you
the thing.
got
That's the thing I never understood. Like fighting back on a bouncer. That's just a terrible idea. Like especially when you're drunk. It's just what are you gonna hit a guy that knows what he's doing?
there was one at a strip club too that was pretty bad. This guy literally went to go piss on the stage. He pulled his pants down, and it was another Sunday night. It was a Sunday night
It's
when I was
always
by myself
Sundays.
again, and he like was going like he was just gonna in the middle of a girl's dance, urinate on the stage. And I remember like my immediate thought was push him so he doesn't piss on the stage. And he went flying. Then he came after me, and I remember I just put him in like an arm bar, but his arm definitely popped.
Oh,
And
you
luckily,
clipped him on the heads.
yeah, I mean, I'm pretty positive I broke his arm on that one. But luckily, he didn't come back. I was thinking he was going to come back with friends, and knowing I was working alone that night, do something for doing that, because that was early in the night. This was at
Yeah.
like 7:30
But
p.m.
that's the other thing too, is that a lot of times when guys say like, "Oh, I'm coming back with my friends," they don't actually have friends. Most of the time, those guys don't have friends at all. So I think you might be okay on that front.
It happens though a lot where they'll come
I'm
back,
sure.
like especially with gang related stuff. You gotta. That's why it's not worth it anymore. I had a few really bad incidents, and also now the moment you step outside with someone, everyone has their cell phone cameras out.
Yeah, that's the big problem. Is definitely the cell phone cameras. First off, I'm from Chicago, so I know everything about the gang boys. But luckily, I don't bounce in Chicago when I do. But yeah, you're right, man. It's the cell phone cameras that get you, because even if you're acting right, they'll catch you when it's halfway through. The guy, threw a drink in your face, you're beating his ass, and all of a sudden, they didn't get the drink thrown in your face. It's just you, throwing hands at him, and yeah, it ain't how it is supposed to be, at least.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And I've been bottled a bunch. Some people were mentioning, "Oh, you're crazy for your bottle promo." That I
I
did recently. It's
I
like I've
liked
been
it.
hit with a million of bottles. It's just part of the job for me, and
Yeah.
I'd rather get it on tape if it's going to happen.
Yeah, by the way, if we can talk about that, because it's actually on YouTube now. That bottle promo, I will say, bro, number one, there ain't no wrestling promos out there like that no more. You gotta go back to the '80s to see a fucking wrestling promo like that. I fucking love that promo. I thought it was great. And the second thing is yeah, if you're gonna have a Corona, you probably should just break it over your fucking head like you did, because fuck Corona's the shits when it comes to actually drinking shit. So, but yeah, man, I fucking love that promo, and there's a lot of things I hate about pro wrestling right now, but I love that promo. The Cody Rhodes thing. Let's be honest, it ain't probably gonna happen, because he probably fears you, because you're an actual legitimate pro wrestler, and he could be a pro wrestler, but he just doesn't want to be.
And for the people on there that, well, first of all, I actually got a call from Terry Funk tonight, who
Did
also
you
liked
really?
that promo. Yeah. Kevin Sullivan told me he liked it. Billy Graham, Jerry Jarrett. So I actually got praise from some high up people in the business about it, as well as some other people that I won't mention because they're involved with the companies.
Of
And I have
course.
few
So
with the
Arn
companies.
Anderson called you and said, "Nice job."
Yeah. But for the people, no, I actually don't even know Arn Anderson. But for some people are like, you're just trying to get on TV, blah blah blah. It's like I got over 10,000 hits on that in a couple of days.
Oh, it was. You
I'm
did it
all
what,
about hits.
Thursday?
That's what my YouTube channel's about. And what he's just going to look like a coward in the end of it if it
Right.
doesn't happen. And if it does happen and they put me on live TV, I don't want a contract.
Right.
Anything could happen in the
Well,
match.
Well, that's the problem is they know you don't want a live contract, so they're not going to put you on TV because they know you'll fucking shoot on his ass.
Because it would only make my channel more popular, but I'll willingly say this public because you know what? Maybe he will have some balls and do
You
it.
know what? And here's the thing: even if you were willing to work a straight match, I think that would be a great match. You're a great worker. I don't know what you think about Cody, but I think Cody's a great worker. Actually, yeah, if you can comment on Cody, I think he's a great worker. I think that his wife has blinded him to what business looks like, but I think he's a very, very good worker.
We'll see. I bring it all up to whether I respect him or not, whether he'll accept the match. So if he'll accept the match, he'll have my respect. But until then, he will not have my respect.
Absolutely.
But I never said he was a bad wrestler. I know he's got some amateur wrestling background,
Yep.
Georgia wrestling, which I don't know how great the wrestling is in Georgia, but he was a state champion there or something. But I don't think he could handle me in amateur wrestling because I can hold up with the best of them. Like I actually had a shoot with Sheldon Benjamin once before Raw.
Oh, really?
Back in 2004.
Is that well known or no?
What's that?
Is that well known or no?
It's been mentioned a few times, but it was like he always used to take on. That was his workout. He would take on the extras.
I wouldn't.
He was not able to pin me, and they eventually called us out of the ring because they wanted to practice something. So I can hold my own against him. I'm not saying I could beat him or outpoint Sheldon Benjamin in an amateur wrestling match. He has more credentials than me, but I could hold my own against him. And if there was striking involved, I definitely think I would win. But in a point amateur wrestling match, yes, he could probably beat me, but I could hold my own against him. So I can hold my own in amateur wrestling.
Well, I think anybody who listens to this show would probably agree that anybody who could hang with Sheldon Benjamin, not win, not lose, hang with Sheldon Benjamin is probably a fucking bad motherfucker. So do you actually have an amateur MMA career or no?
No, I was going to go straight into pro.
Okay.
And I still would potentially be open for a fight if the right fight came up and if it was in a situation where I could seriously train for 8 weeks to do it. But the only MMA fights I've been offered have been like for $600 or $800. And at this point in my life, I would have done it and I was going to do it when I was in my 20s. But I'm 37 now, and I'm not going, and I have other stuff to do that makes me a lot more money than that.
I was going to say, you can probably make more money just doing what you do. Because, by the way, I mean, and I'm not just kissing your ass. Your YouTube channel is huge. Everything you do is huge. I mean, honestly, if I'm watching your shit, obviously it's huge because I watch your shit all the time. I'm just like, this guy is clearly on his P's and Q's, fucking knows what he's doing. So, fucking congrats on your channel. Your channel is fantastic. And actually, the first time I ever heard of you, and not trying to sound anywhere, this is all out of respect, was the match with Terry Funk where you just beat the goddamn piss out of him with the fucking chops and. I mean, I think
you did say that was the worst beating he ever had in wrestling, and that's saying a lot.
I would agree. Because, especially at his age, too, because at his age, he was probably in his 60s, and you were just beating the goddamn shit out of him. And I was just like, this fucking kid knows what he's doing. So, good on you. But, I wish a guy like you would actually be on the national stage because, unfortunately, wrestling's kind of an embarrassment now.
You can't defend it anymore because how can you defend when you see Joey Ryan standing in the ring with another man and they're just grabbing each other's dick and your friends say, hey, look, this is what you do, right? What am I supposed to say to that?
You're telling me that Hannibal would not grab Joey Ryan's cock and take a bump?
No.
Okay.
And I lost all respect for Ken Shamrock when he did that.
I did too, dude. I was a huge, as you know, this is an MMA podcast. I love Ken Shamrock. I love what he did for the sport. There is not too many guys that did for the sport what he did. And then I saw him take that spot where he grabbed fucking Joey Ryan's cock and did the fucking cock spot. And I was just like, I don't respect you anymore. I'm sorry. Like, I just don't.
He could have said no to that.
I would have. I'm not even a fucking pro wrestler, and I would have said no. If Joey Ryan would have said, hey, I want you to take the dick spot, I'd be like, no, I'm not doing that.
It sets a bad example because I could understand some wrestlers. I know that they say anyone that said no wouldn't have done it, but like if a promoter's asking you to do that and you're a young wrestler and it's like you don't want to burn your bridge with the promoter and you have to wrestle him, I personally would not do it, but I can understand how some would feel like maybe some pressure to do that. That's why I don't think it's right, and I'm glad that guy's been called out.
Yeah, exposed, right? I mean, if there was a guy who got absolutely fucked by the Twitter or whatever the fuck that was, it was him.
By the way, I would fight Joey Ryan for $600. I would fight him for free.
I'd do it for free. I'd do it for free. He wouldn't do it though because I wouldn't do the dick spot. So
no, I would fight him for real. I would only fight him for real. It would have to be a shoot fight.
For sure. So say I put together this little fight fest, right? And there's no payouts. Like I'm not going to pay you out. But I say, hey Devin, Joey Ryan and you in the main event. What would be the stipulation? Would kicks be allowed? Would this be all out, or is it a boxing match? What do we do there?
It wouldn't matter what kind of fighting it was. I would agree to it as long as I got a copy of the footage to post on my channel.
That might be useful.
There's nothing that guy could beat me in fight. And I'm not saying I'm the greatest fighter. I am tough. I can take a beating. I have never been knocked out. In the fights I have lost, I have been gang beaten. Hannibal. But even then, it's not been a knockout. Hannibal, but I have been beaten up by groups of people attacking me.
Hannibal, I will say this 100%, and because this is an MMA podcast, it doesn't matter. You're a pro wrestler. It doesn't fucking matter. I would not fucking confront you with a goddamn handgun. You're a tough kid. You're a tough dude. Doesn't matter. But if Joey Ryan had a problem, I ain't a pro wrestler. I'll take his fucking ass. I don't give a shit. Yeah. What's he gonna do?
I would love to fight him. I hate him. He's one of the people I hate enough that I would absolutely fight for free. CM Punk, I would put it in that category.
Oh, from my hometown.
Well, he's done your hometown a great disservice.
Yeah, well, he doesn't know how to fight. That's why.
But what I don't understand about him, he was trained by the best for years.
He was at Rufus Sport. How
could you not be good?
Well, that's the thing I didn't understand. Actually, one of my friends is his teammate because my friend was an hour and a half up. I'm about an hour and a half where he trains from. My friend would always talk shit. He's just he was it's the opposite. He would not talk shit. He would just be like, "Oh, he tries really hard." I'm like, "Tries hard, man. I try hard to not be fucking ugly, but apparently I am. So he's not a good fighter. So
he's an embarrassment to wrestling."
Yeah.
But I hate him. I hate him with a passion. I would love.
Is there a reason for that or no?
Because he insulted wrestling. He made us all look like pussies by doing that.
Well, here's the thing, and again, Hannibal, I'm not kissing your ass. Like I've seen what you can do. So, and we can get into it, but the Lanny Poffo thing, right? And it was a work shoot, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, and I actually did a video of that on my channel that people could look up if they want the 20-minute version of why we did that. But yeah.
But I mean, even he gave you props on that. He was on that kayfabe commentary. He said that kid Devin is legit.
Well, he's seen me in a few altercations over the years outside of the ring. But
I'm sure he has.
The thing about that Lanny thing was everything about it was real other than we knew what was going to happen, but the other people in the dressing room, other than Honky Tonk Man, didn't know. And that was a huge
Honky Tonk, Honky fucked it up. He was the one that fucked it up. But, I mean, Jeremy Prophet looked like he was like, holy shit. And then, he was like, oh, okay, yeah. But no, I mean, here's the thing. All I was going to say about that, I wasn't even really going to make much about it. But, I mean, what you did in that shoot was I mean, you showed that you knew what you were doing. You fucking shot a single, went to side control, and you put him in a Kimura lock. I mean, obviously everyone knows. Do you know what you're doing? CM. So let's say Big Riles puts a fight on because I got a few extra dollars, right? We do the main event, CM Punk versus Hannibal. What happens?
It would be fun. He would be finished. There would be a finish to that fight. The last guy he fought, I interviewed Forrest Griffin, by the way.
I saw it. It was Mike Jackson. I was there.
And when I interviewed him, it was before CM Punk's second fight against the other 0-1 guy.
Mike Jackson. I was at that fight. It was terrible.
And Forrest told me off camera that they expected CM Punk to win that fight. That was a fight that they expected Punk to win. Yeah,
Why?
they gave him that guy.
Them expecting him to win that fight was like my mother expecting me to win the spelling bee.
Well, Dana White said after he wouldn't have even put that fight on Fight Pass. But yeah, no.
It was on pay-per-view. I was there.
It would be a good match. It would be a very heavily hyped up match. There would actually be build to it. But I don't like the other thing about CM Punk. Did you notice when he did MMA, he didn't promote it well at all. He lost any charisma that he had.
I know, but why would you promote something that you're going to get fucked up in, right?
I did give him the benefit of the doubt. Before his first fight, I watched. I'm sure you probably watched it too.
Of course
they did four videos of him training. It was half an hour. And when they showed him sparring, I was actually thinking, this guy is working everyone. He actually knows what he's doing.
Oh, I told you he works with my friend. My friend actually works at that gym.
Yeah, I thought that when they showed him sparring and how bad he was before the fight, that was him working us to make us think that he didn't know what he was doing and his opponent think that. So they would have their guard down, but then we see him actually fight. But whatever.
I know. You know what's crazy is that when I saw him doing that, I was just like, I guess I can fight too if he can fight, But I was at that fight. It was terrible.
At least he made $1 million for that first fight and 500.
You know what? Good for him. Good for him. Dude made money. And, I don't think anybody would not take that fucking kind of money to do that.
No, I hate the people that say, well, give him props. He had the ball step in the cage. Okay, it's not a street fight. You know the referee's going to stop it if you get in any serious trouble. You're getting paid millions of dollars.
Well, give him props. I'm not going to give him props. He made a bunch of money off it. If it was just a regular ass street fight, it was just like, hey, CM Punk's going to fight this guy in the street. I might have a little more respect for him because I know what street fighting is all about, and I'm sure you know what street fighting is all about because you've had it before. But he ain't about that.
He actually did have one street fight, and Ted Hart beat him.
Yeah, I heard about really that. I heard about that, but then Teddy Hart's got his own issues. So,
and then there was another. The one thing I will give CM Punk credit for, apparently he had an altercation with Kevin Owens backstage at a Ring of Honor show.
I know you're not a big fan of him. I know you're not a big
Kevin
fan.
Owens back down just like he's done every fight that he's been confronted.
Oh, he backed down from CM Punk?
Yeah, at a Ring of Honor show.
That's like backing down from a cunt with lips.
Well, so CM Punk could put that notch on his belt for the people that believe Kevin Owens.
So for my fans who may not be familiar, I know you and Kevin. I call him Kevin Steen because that's I actually follow the old school wrestling. I don't follow this bullshit as. So he tried to fight Kevin Steen. So kind of explain that, and why is Kevin Steen a bitch?
Why did I try and fight Steen? I never tried to fight Steen. Jeremy Prophet tried to fight Steen.
Oh,
once.
I thought who did?
Jeremy Prophet. You mentioned you knew who Jeremy Prophet was?
I do know who Jeremy Prophet is.
They actually had a confrontation backstage in Quebec, and Steen backed down.
Really?
Yeah, he also backed down from Kevin Owens or Kevin Steen.
Steen. We'll call him Kevin Steen because that's what most people probably know him as.
Yeah, we were both trained by Jacques Rougeau.
Yeah.
That's basically, we didn't have much communication in those days. Then a few years later, I was booked on a show in Montreal, And a couple days before the show, the promoter told me that Kevin Owens had me taken off the show.
That's
So
fucked
that was
up.
the first I heard he was bad mouthing me. Then for years after, I never saw Kevin Owens in person since like 2002. Like it's been literally 20 years since we've seen. But I've heard for years he always bashed me behind the scenes, and
but
just
why?
annoys me is he has the gimmick of being a fighter. He's never
for
been
him? I don't understand what bashing you would do for him.
Because we were, first of all, I was signed before him in WWE. He wrestled for like 3 years before me.
Yeah.
My contract didn't work out. I was signed before him. There was always competitive jealousy there. But
is that what it was? Was all like competition? Is that why he was all fucking pissed off about you? Because honestly, like I didn't think I would never, as a wrestling, you know, like, not a wrestling fan, but a wrestling observer, I would have never thought your paths would even cross.
We've never crossed. But I've heard from way too many people, and I saw it in one of his shoot interviews that he was insulting me behind my back. He would never do it to my face. I would destroy him. So whatever. I fucking will expose him every chance I get because
you have a big video about it. I've seen it.
But he's not a fighter. No, he's never. There's only 2 fights I've heard. It was Jeremy and CM Punk. They were confrontations, and he backed down from both. He has no legitimate sporting background. He just wears a shirt that says KO on it. And he's fat, but everyone's supposed to believe
he ain't knocked nobody out except the fucking Pillsbury Doughboy.
Exactly, and I don't know.
I'll knock his ass out too because he's a wrestler. All he wants to be. I'll still fuck him up too.
I have no doubt that he wouldn't actually fight. He would not fight anybody. He's not a fighter. He makes $2 million a year though, so good for him. Yeah, I'll probably never see him again. No. Yeah, I would fight him for free though. I would 100% fight him for free. Did you see that video of him that came out recently? Of him like doing that angle using the N-word.
Yeah, it got like the announcer from me and my dad watch AEW because we just look for something to watch in this fucking pandemic bullshit. But yeah, I heard the announcer from AEW like use the N-word or whatever, and
Owens did too. But what was funny is
did he really?
It seems Owens has the pass. No one wants to get on Owens because all the smart marks love him. So it's like he took no heat from that. Excalibur took all the heat from it.
He should though, because he's a shit announcer. So,
but yeah, I'll be honest. I've only ever watched the first episode of AEW. I haven't seen much of it. To be honest. Me
and my dad watch AEW because we got to have something to watch. We actually, there's 2 things that me and my dad. We usually fast forward through most of it. You know, because it's a way for me and my dad to hang out. The first thing we'll say is that we love watching MJF. There's not a guy more fucking talented as him. I mean, that dude is unbelievably fucking talented. I don't know if you have a comment on MJF.
I've seen very little of him. I hear that he does his character very well, so I have nothing against him.
But he doesn't break character. That's the thing. He's doing old school where it doesn't matter what he does. He's MJF, and that's, I mean, I respect the fuck out of that.
I'll give him props for that. And as much as I hate the Orange Cassidy character, he at least kayfabes it too. So I give them both props for that.
Fuck Orange Cassidy.
Would I like to wrestle him? Yes.
Wrestle him or fucking kill him?
If it would just be a chop match, how many times could I chop him before he gets out of the ring?
He'll be scratching his own, he'll be like, you stop hitting yourself. No, I will say MJF is so fucking talented. He is a guy that I look at and I say, wrestling has a chance if he is a guy that is leading the challenge. And then the second thing that I think of with AEW is just, if Cody could get his head out of his friends' asses, and I say friends' asses because if it was just Cody, he'd probably be doing a pretty goddamn good job. But
there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen there.
Dude, I don't get dude, do you understand the Young Bucks? I don't.
As I said, I haven't seen much of them. I'm not a fan of the flippy wrestlers, but I don't hate on people that are, but I just don't watch stuff that I don't like watching.
Like Adam Page is very talented. I think you would probably agree with me, right?
From what I've seen of him, I don't have anything against him.
Right. But like part of the whole AEW thing is the Young Bucks and the Kenny Omega thing. Like I can't look at AEW and be like, this is talent. This is I just look at it, I say, yeah, MJF is good. Cody, I know you don't I know you got your issues with Cody, but Cody's a fantastic he's good at what he does. Everything else is just the shits. It's the fucking goddamn Hershey shits.
That's why I don't watch it. I only will flip through in Twitter if something interests me. I'll watch the video, but that's about it.
Yeah,
I don't.
I mean,
I'd rather watch MMA. I actually watch MMA every day, but I don't. I'm not like Jim Cornette that apparently likes to torture himself watching stuff that he doesn't like every week. But really,
well, he
reason
does it
why
for
he
his
does that is
fans, you
that's how
know.
he stays relevant.
Yeah, I understand, but he does it for fans. And I'll be honest, I know you guys got a little bit of heat. I've heard about it. I like listening to Jim talk about it because I think me and Jim are very close on pro wrestling. So I will not talk shit about Jim Cornette. I know you guys got a little bit of heat, right?
I don't know what his problem is with me, but I'm definitely not a fan of
Well, I would
his.
think that he would like a guy like you because you're legit and you know you're not into that fucking young bucks. You know, hey, I'm gonna jump off the stands and then do goddamn 75 kick flips. You know, I would think that you guys would be kind of on the same page.
Well, he's made an enemy with me for life. If somebody decides to insult me, they're enemies with me forever.
So what did he say to you? I'm actually kind of interested myself. What did he say to you that got you all pissed off?
I'm not gonna put over anything he says about me because he's useless. I don't respect anyone that like gets off on having their wives allegedly getting banged by other men.
Yeah, but
That's just
he
pathetic.
kind of addressed that though, didn't he not?
He didn't deny it.
Oh, he didn't deny it, but he was just like, "Hey,
He says he
sorry
has
that
a
I have a
very
really
unusual
cool
sex
sex
life.
life," you know.
He has an unusual sex life, but you know what? He might not be able to get it in her because I've seen the size of her.
Oh my
I mean,
god.
the tennis racket he could probably use to get in there, but he might need to hire some people off of Craigslist to actually get her satisfied and maybe like sitting on
I
the bed
can't wait
watching.
for this. I can't wait for this podcast to be absolutely fucking shit shined by fucking Brian Last and him. This is gonna be great. I'm not even into pro wrestling that much, and I'm gonna get fucking shit on by that. So
The one thing about the Cornette's fans is he does have like he doesn't have any female fans. But he has a lot of fans that are very supportive of him and have been harassing me since he started running his mouth about me. But
oh, they've been coming after you?
in messages and so forth, yes,
Oh no shit!
which
I
is
didn't know
which
that.
is great.
Because here's the thing, dude. Like, I don't really honestly watch wrestling anymore, but I watch Cornette's podcast because me and him have very similar philosophies on wrestling, and I watch yours because I really enjoy the interviews that you do, and honestly, you might have the best fucking pro wrestling shoot interview fucking podcast around, and that's not me just blowing smoke up your ass. Like, I really enjoy the fucking interviews that you do. So the one thing I'll say, was it really hard getting Conan on the show since I saw you had him recently?
Not at all. I have a good relationship with his podcast.
Oh, really?
They've actually been wanting me to have him on for a while, and it was a good. That one it hasn't even been a week, and it has over 10,000.
I was gonna say that was pretty recent, right? That was pretty recent,
I
right?
think you're freezing a bit, or we're free. What's that? Conan was last Monday. It was a
Last
week ago.
Monday, yeah. I was gonna say, like, he seemed like he was pretty recent, and it was just so funny because kayfabe commentaries had an issue with him, but every time I hear him do an interview, he's
I don't trust that kayfabe commentaries guy. I don't know if they even do interviews anymore, but
no,
he's
they
said
don't.
a bunch of lies about me in the past. I think that guy's a liar. I don't think he's trustworthy.
Sean Oliver was talking shit about you.
I heard it. I heard a video clip somebody sent me. He claimed I was a mark that. Keep in mind, he's never had one wrestling match in his life.
Yeah,
I've been in the business as a wrestler, a
yeah.
promoter, plus I was an amateur wrestler, legitimate. So how he could call me a mark, I don't know. But
Sure.
he was alleging that I do all my interviews for free and I'm rich and I just spend all of this vast fortune I have going around living my fantasies, talking to wrestlers. Okay, pal.
I'll be with you on that one. There's no way. By the way, you did this out of the goodness of your heart for a guy who has a very menial podcast. Now, in terms of, and one of the things we talk about here is MMA. Like, it's actually turned into a pro wrestling podcast. This is an MMA podcast, but it is what it is. Who do you see?
There's a lot of MMA fans, honestly, that used to be pro wrestling fans.
Yeah. Well,
that still are fans of the old wrestling.
Yeah,
but they can't watch the new stuff just like me because it sucks.
It is. Dude, it's almost sad though, because I respect the art of pro wrestling. I respect the art. But what they're doing right now, man, it's just so fucking frustrating. It's just like how do you do what you're doing and then expect a guy like me to watch that?
And MMA is actually becoming what old wrestling was, with the promos and the build-up. I remember, for instance, even in boxing, did you see the Fury Braun Strowman press conference for Saudi Arabia?
I did.
How boring it was.
Yes.
And then the Fury Wilder press conference was really entertaining. So it's like, why is the fake stuff so
I think
boring?
you would agree that the Fury Wilder fights were fucking outstanding, and that's something I would put my money towards. That's something I would say, here, take my goddamn money. I can't fucking hold it in my wallet. Take it.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, the build-up is way better for fighting. Wrestling could do it, but they don't do it anymore. They want to be serious and boring.
No, they want to be sports entertainment, which the word sports entertainment is so fucking cringeworthy, man. I know you feel the same way about that.
Well, I just talked to Terry Funk today on the phone, and he said the same thing. Why are they calling themselves storytellers in every interview? You're just exposing it for being fake by saying we're storytellers.
Well, actually, it's funny. It's Terry Funk. My girlfriend was the first time she saw Terry Funk was today because we watched Roadhouse, and I was like, that is a pro wrestler. That is a man who you talk shit about his craft. He's going to knock you out. He's a guy that will.
He would have.
Of course he would have. Of course he would have. And that's one of the things I always say is, like, back in the day, like, you know, before pro wrestling was entertainment, these guys were fucking pro athletes. They were, you know, like guys like you who will kill you if you talk shit about our craft. And there's, you know, it's unfortunately, you know, not like that anymore.
And it's what it was my training too, because I was beat up when I was trained in the dungeon. I got my ass kicked, and I actually went through real pain to learn how to be a wrestler. So I did try to make my matches more real because of that. But now people will just throw it out there that it's a performance, but whatever. We can't do anything about it.
Well, that's what I always said to my girlfriend. I said if I was ever a pro wrestler, everything would be stiff. Because the thing I always respected was Bob Holly. I don't know. Have you ever run across Bob Holly or no?
Never actually yet.
I always heard Bob Holly go, he goes, you know, it's got to be believable. You hit me, I hit you. So he was always the guy that was like, I'm going to fucking stiff you, and you're going to stiff me back. And if you don't stiff me back, I'm going to tell you you're being a bitch about it. And if you don't stiff me back again, we're going to have an issue. And he would shoot on guys that were not being stiff enough. And I don't think I can respect a guy more than that. I mean, that's.
I thought it was interesting when I interviewed Ronnie Garvin about Tessa Blanchard beating men, and he said if I had to wrestle a girl, I would chop the shit out of her. Because you know what? There's a good mentality. It's like, okay, if she's going to beat me, maybe I'll just chop the shit out of her.
I would have never let that happen in the first place, by the way. Why are you going to – dude, Ronda Rousey would never have beaten John Jones.
No.
Why – and here's the thing. I'm a huge Brian Cage fan. Lost respect after that. Sammy Callahan can go fuck off. I mean, his shit is there.
Brian Cage should never be looked at as a monster again after that.
Yeah, he was acting like he wasn't beat by a woman. And here's the thing. Like, it's not sexist. There's nothing about that. But you're telling me that Tessa Blanchard is going to be the world heavyweight champion as a woman. She's going to beat the best guys on your roster, and you're telling me that the Impact Championship beats a goddamn shit? Get the fuck out of here.
No, I will never support that company after that. But for that Brian Cage match, the other thing is, like, it's one thing if the girl gets like a quick victory because the guy killed himself, but when you're just taking straight bumps and flying around for a girl like it's a man hitting you around, I don't know. That's just unbelievable.
It's ridiculous, man. It really is ridiculous because you're telling me that the world champion, no matter what you're saying it is a woman who could beat Brian Cage. You know, as much as I talk shit about Sami Callihan, she beat Sami Callihan. She beat Moose. So all these guys don't mean shit anymore.
I'd like to see actually Ronda Rousey against Kevin Owens in a shoot, though. I definitely would have my money on Rousey, for sure.
Okay, against Kevin Owens, I'd have me. I would bet on me over Kevin Owens. I'm not a big guy. No, I'm not a big guy, but I'm pretty sure I could take his fat fucking ass.
Definitely. But yeah, there are some girls that can beat some men. I don't doubt that. But
dude,
you have the biggest guys on your roster, the world champion. I don't know about that.
Dude, I work out with girls that could probably whoop their ass. I totally get it, but it's just like the world championship is a big difference. There's a big difference between the world championship and everything else. That's all I'm saying. Now we mostly went past most of the things I wanted to ask you. Now, we'll try to go through these quickly. A lot of people in wrestling now just really don't look like killers. Like if you go back to the 80s and 90s and goddamn, even the early 2000s, like everybody that was in wrestling was a tough looking person. Like what the hell happened?
I don't know. It's become something totally different, and it's unfortunate. And the other thing about the old days of wrestling, the characters were their real characters in real life. Whereas now they go back and they play their video games after the matches.
Is that it? The video games, is that it? Is that what the problem is? Is that too many of these guys are playing video games?
It seemed like in the past it was like legitimate bouncers or ex-football players.
That was the Road Warriors, right? The Road Warriors were both bouncers and football players.
Or Terry Funk told me once, like, some of the guys in wrestling in like the 80s were people that legitimately were so crazy they couldn't get a job anywhere else. And that showed in the personality. But now it's like, no offense to college graduates, but most of them are college educated. They're by the book people, they're business people, and it doesn't translate into entertaining characters.
Well, it's not even that, but and again, a guy like you, and I'm not kissing your ass, but I mean, you look like you can handle yourself. You're big. You're probably, 260 plus?
I haven't stepped on the scale, but I'm between 260 and 280, I would say.
Okay, so we'll say you're over 260. I mean, there's guys in the wrestling business, like, if I were to step in the ring with no experience, because if you can believe this, I have no wrestling experience. If I were to walk into a wrestling arena now, I guarantee you 90% of the guys out could whoop their ass.
I agree. Yeah, they don't look for that anymore. Like, for instance, Cedric Rougeau, Jacques Rougeau's son, is 6'7", 300 pounds with the Rougeau last name.
Yeah, he's a big dude. He's a good-looking kid.
They did not sign him, and I've hung out with him. You walk into a bar with him, everybody's like, who is this guy?
Yeah, I don't understand that one.
It's like they don't go after the people anymore that stand out. You wouldn't recognize half of these guys, like, if they were in a bar because they look smaller than your average person.
Right. And that's the other thing, too, like, Davey Boy Smith Jr., like, how is he not signed to a major wrestling company? That dude is.
He hasn't even wrestled since March.
I know, he was in MLW, and I love MLW. I think it's a great company, but
they're holding him hostage apparently now, from what I've read. And I'm supposed to have
got out of his contract, and apparently he's doing AEW Dark, which is like, basically being the guy doing the fucking facial at the cum shot.
From what I understand, Harry's deal ends in December. He's not going to wrestle for them again, though.
Yeah.
But his deal, he only gets paid if he wrestles. So he's locked into this contract. He made a few WWE appearances earlier this year, and they sent WWE a cease and desist order because of his contract. he can't sign with AEW or WWE right now because he's under this contract, but they're not paying him.
That's so unfortunate because he's so talented. It's unbelievable how talented he is.
He'll be somewhere big soon. He is the champion of Great North Wrestling here in Canada, the company that I own. But we can't run. But yes, that he's not in AEW, and he is legit. There's no doubt in my mind he is the best technical wrestler out there today. He just got his purple belt in jiu-jitsu.
Did you ever see that?
Josh Barnett. Like, there's nobody out there
better than him. Did you ever see that? I wouldn't call it. It was basically a shoot when he fucking shot on Ray Phoenix.
I did not know.
Oh man, dude, I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but he looked like he was gonna kill Ray Phoenix. And I think the only thing between him killing Ray Phoenix and not killing Ray Phoenix was was fucking Pentagon, like being like, all right, go tag out to Teddy Hart, you know.
But he's 6'5", 270. Like, he should be, as I've said, I've stated this, why is he not leading NXT UK? Because, like, he could actually build that brand into, like, a legitimate company in the UK. But no, he's rotting away, not being used at all right now. It sucks. I mean,
if you talk about a guy that should be everything that we talk about a pro wrestler. He's a good-looking kid. He's very large in terms of, you know, overall size. He can talk. He does everything well,
and the average person would not want to fight him. That should be a key in wrestling. When you see a wrestler, your average person should be like, okay, I wouldn't want to fight this guy. I'm probably not going to win.
No, and that's the other thing. He's a big fucking kid, you know? And that's what I was saying, like, when he almost got in that shoot with Ray Phoenix, like, if it wasn't for Pentagon being there, I think he would have killed him.
I might have to look that one up. Oh, but yeah, dude, I would rate him.
I couldn't find it, but it was on like the. I'll send you it at the end. It was like the most botched of 2019. They tried shooting him off the ropes, and I don't know what the fuck happened. And then Pentagon went over to like go fuck with Teddy Hart. And then the camera just like pans over, and he has fucking Ray Phoenix in like a fucking arm triangle choke. I was like, what the fuck is he doing, you know? So it was pretty cool. But I don't know if you know this while we're still talking, but I was the guy that actually beat up Shawn Michaels. I was the Marine. No, I'm just making it up.
So the incident with the Marines, yeah.
Yeah, no, I heard it was like 10 Marines, and then, you know, there was like actually one guy. But...
Yeah, I think it was actually only one person fighting him, from what I understand, but there was 6 of them or something. I'd love to interview that guy. If anyone ever can hook me up with that guy, I would love to interview that guy.
It might be my uncle. No, for sure. That was the other thing I said too. I'm like, so there was a guy that goes, you can't be a pro wrestler without being like a tough guy, and I was like, yeah, and then I was like, well, I mean, Shawn Michaels did kind of lead the WWE for like 5 or 6 years, like he was kind of the main attraction, but like how do you deal with a not necessarily a locker room, but how do you deal with something where the main guy is really not that tough? Like, I don't get it.
I've never heard of Shawn Michaels winning a fight, and he's been in a lot of fights. He has, at least he gets in fights. Unlike Kevin Owens, who's never actually been in a fight, at least Shawn Michaels will actually fight, but he'll get his ass kicked.
Yeah, maybe. So let's go into Kevin Owens, Mark, because obviously you don't like him, and I like.
No, it's all good. I think we've talked enough about him. I was just saying I have more respect for someone that will like at least
actually throw down. Actually throw down. They'll actually put their fucking body on the line for that. Yeah. So I don't know. What are you? You said you're 35, right?
I'm 37 now.
37. So you'll never actually get into MMA, correct?
Only, as I said, if like someone offered me. Let's say I continue to get popular and I continue to interview the MMA fighters. And like I get known enough in MMA where someone would offer me enough that I could actually not do this and just train and be prepared to fight, then yes, I would do 1 to 3 fights, but I'm too old to be a champion.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing I never understood. I always said, like, I'm not trying to be a champion. I'm trying to make fucking money around here, you know?
And I'm making more money doing what I'm doing, but as I said, I do love to fight, and I love MMA. I actually like boxing a lot too. You'll probably see me in some professional fights if I keep getting more popular. I wouldn't be surprised if some promoter would use my forum of the Hannibal TV to help promote an event and have me on the card somewhere. But it would have, as I said, $600 is not going to cut it. It's not worth my time. It wouldn't even cover my training.
Even me, who's a nobody, would not take $600.
Plus the break, I have taken a lot of hits, both in real fighting and in sparring. I've done very hard sparring.
You get potatoed a few times?
In wrestling too, definitely. I've had a lot of pro wrestling matches.
That's what I was saying.
So like, I don't want to be taking a million hits to my head for free.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You know, I wasn't a huge fan of Jim Duggan as a wrestler, but as a man, I think he's a very, very smart guy. And he's like, you know, you do pro wrestling, you're getting potato every night. And I'm like, he's right, man. You get fucking hit in the head a few times. If there was, just for the fans, if there was a fighter or two or a wrestler or two that you would have wanted to see as a shoot artist or a pro MMA fighter, who was kind of like a couple guys that you would have wanted to see do MMA that were pro wrestlers? I said Scott Steiner. That's just me.
Well, Harry Smith, I still would like to see do MMA for all the training he's had.
100%.
Haku, of course.
Yeah.
Those are two guys that
But there's rules in MMA.
There are rules, but I think Haku would have done well in the original UFC. And also, he's hard to knock out. Like,
oh yeah, he's probably got a chin like a goddamn fucking granite, Fizzin.
Yeah, so those are the two that would be at the top of my list.
So Haku and Davey Boy.
Yeah.
You don't think I did an article a year ago. We did the top 64 wrestlers that we wanted to see get in a shoot. And the guy that I tried to get all the way to the finals was Scott Steiner. What do you think? We'll do a couple of questions here. Have you met Scott Steiner? If you have, yes. What has it been like? I know you've talked to Rick Steiner, who apparently, from what I was told, was the crazier of the two. But
I wrestled and defeated Rick Steiner in wrestling. Scott Steiner, we used him 3 times in Great North Wrestling. I also interviewed him. He said he wouldn't have wanted to do MMA because he said the training just isn't worth the pay to him. He's happy with the money that he made in wrestling. Would Scott have been good at MMA? Yes.
Oh, he would have been unbelievable.
Rick too. I'm not saying they wouldn't have done well in MMA. They both would have done well. I just would have rather see Haku than those guys.
So you think that in terms of MMA, that Haku would have been more exciting than the Steiner brothers?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't understand that not because I don't think Haku's a good fighter. From what I've heard, he's just a nut job.
I've also been around them, all 3 of those guys, and Haku has a very dangerous presence about him.
Yeah, but it's just like
you don't want to mess with Haku.
Yeah, but it's just like with rules. Like you would think with rules he might be fucked, with a referee and shit.
Well, we'll never know, will we? Because of his age. But
That's true.
Yeah, I don't know. He definitely has more of a presence about him of somebody you would not want to mess with. Being around all those 3.
There's not too many people I'd fuck with, but when I hear about Haku, I'm just like, I wouldn't fuck with him. If I had a 20-yard stick, I wouldn't fuck with him. So.
Yeah, no, he's up there for sure.
Now, are you following the fights these days, the UFC, or nah?
I follow it. I don't. I watch. As I said, I watch probably 3 MMA fights a day. Depends what I see pop up in my feeds.
So you're not going to know much about the Frankie Edgar fight next week, because as we always do on this podcast, we try to do predictions for the fights next week.
I'll be honest. They're the most fighters I care most about are the heavyweights and the women.
Uh, who's your
Uh,
who's your favorite fighter?
Now that's active, Francis Ngannou is probably my favorite.
He's a beast, no doubt
We
about
hope
that.
it might either be John Jones or Francis getting the next title shot. If Jones wins his next fight, he'll probably be able to take it if he wants to fight Stipe.
Man,
But it should be Francis
yeah,
getting that shot.
you talk about a bad dude. John Jones is the greatest fighter in history. Period. There's no
Yeah.
argument.
Oh no, he's great.
Yeah. So you're Frankie. So next week, and I'll just do this real quick. Frankie Edgar is fighting next week. He's taking on Pedro Munoz. I mean, that's a great fight. Do you have an opinion on the Frankie Edgar Pedro Munoz fight?
I'm not familiar enough with Pedro to give a proper examination on that one. What's your opinion on it?
I think it's a fantastic fight. Pedro Munoz actually beat the goddamn living tar out of Cody Garbrandt, who is apparently fighting for the flyweight title very soon. I like the fight. I think it's gonna be if I'm not mistaken, it's an ESPN Plus fight. Huge fan of Frankie. I mean, how do you not love Frankie Edgar? I mean, the dude he takes a licking and keeps on ticking, right?
The MMA fighter I'd like to interview most is this. I think it's Valerie Lourdes. I think from Bellator. She's my favorite, actually, of the females now.
I can get her for you.
Can you?
I'm pretty sure I could.
Oh yes, if you could do that,
I'll do my best.
Yes, I really.
I'll say this guy Hannibal. He's like he's a wrestler or whatever. He just I want to hear you.
Yes, please get me her before she becomes super famous. She's great.
She has a new contract. You're right.
She would be an amazing wrestler too.
I agree. I agree with you 100%.
Cormier there's talk that Cormier will probably sign as a wrestler. Doesn't look like anything's happening with Tito. He did have that tryout.
Tito is he's running for like local office. He's like actually like a politician now.
Yeah, in Huntington Beach. But yeah, he had a tryout, so I'm guessing they didn't sign him from it. It's funny that they signed.
He's like 40-something years old, man. He's like 43. Who the fuck is gonna sign a 43-year-old man?
He was actually my most disappointing shoot interview. Really? I thought he was going to get great views. And I interviewed Tank Abbott the same week. And Tank had like 5 times as many views as Tito, which is amazing to me.
No kidding.
I thought Tito, because of the star power, was going to like take off. But it had to be one of my most disappointing. But I don't hate him. I actually like him. Yeah, but I was just disappointed about that.
I spoke to him when I was in California doing the lady fights, Invicta fights, and he's a good dude. He's just he's not as exciting as you'd think he'd be, as you kind of just said. Like he's just not as exciting as you think he'd be.
That last fight he had against Alberto El Patron, I don't know if that was just. I know he could beat Alberto, but did they work?
I didn't even know he had that fight. The last fight I saw him was the 3rd fight against Chuck Liddell, and I was just like, why is this happening?
Well, it worked out really well for Tito.
Of course it did. He fought a dude with no chin.
Yeah, exactly. But he wanted that win back, and he got it. But the Alberto one was just.
That was too much. No chin, just hit him, and he falls down.
It was funny. I just remember
it wasn't though, because I was such a huge Chuck Liddell fan. It wasn't funny because I was just sitting there just being like, fuck, man, what are you doing, man? Like
he's just collecting a payday. But I just thought it was funny because like when Tito like came to watch Chuck train, he said exactly what was going to happen. He just like laughed at him and he's like, you actually think you can fight me? And this is where you're at.
Yeah, 100%. No, you're 100% right. I remember that. He said that. I was like, he ain't wrong.
I do like Chuck though. I haven't interviewed him yet. Hopefully one day. But
for sure.
Let's hope we don't see Tito fight anymore. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, no thanks. I think I'll be all right on that front.
I agree.
Well, here's what we'll do. Because we're still technically on my podcast, even though I think we've lost things here. Please plug yourself. Where can we find you? How are we gonna find Hannibal or Devin on your side?
Well, youtube.com/the Hannibal TV. That's my main YouTube channel where I post shoot interview clips, news updates.
And they're really fun to watch, man. I will say you are very talented with the interviews, man. I really, really enjoy your fucking your shoot interviews. They're awesome.
And as I said, we got Mark Kerr this week. Bas Rutten is going to be my next MMA interview.
No shit.
That should be coming up in the next 2 weeks.
Awesome. We love.
I'll be branching more into MMA because as we said, I'm more of an MMA fan. We cover wrestling legends, Twitter and Instagram at the Hannibal TV. I have a personal Twitter at Devin Hannibal. TheHannibalTV.com is our website. All of our links are on there. I highly suggest you subscribe. And yeah, I have a second YouTube channel too, Devin Nicholson. I only post my full shoot interviews on that channel. I don't post the clips. If you go to the Hannibal TV, I post also individual clips from the interviews.
Yeah, and here's the thing, guys. Like, you know, if you're listening right now, his shoot interviews are so fucking good. I'm a huge fan of your shoot interviews. I love them. The one you did with what's his nuts? Billy Jack Haynes.
Oh boy,
yeah. Right. Even you were.
He's gone missing now. By the way, no one knows where he is.
Oh, he disappeared?
Yeah.
Not surprising. No, the Billy Jack Haynes interviews, I thought those were some of the best fucking goddamn interviews I've seen. Like, those were outstanding. I watched them with my girlfriend. She's like, wait, I'm like, yeah, that's a real dude right there. You know,
yeah, he has CTE for sure. He was part of that concussions lawsuit.
Yeah,
but he legitimately has CTE, I believe.
For sure, and it's not even that though. But his stories are just so interesting. Even if like a couple of them, I kind of just like, okay, I don't know if I believe that, but his interviews are so interesting. It doesn't matter. And the thing is, Hannibal, you are so good at what you do. You're very good at getting people to talk about their story and keep that story front and center for the fans. I love your channel. Like I said, for my fans here in Illinois and everywhere else, you have the best pro wrestling channel, and that's just not me talking shit. Like I love it. I love it.
Well, it's only going to get better. I've only been doing this for 5 years. I'm going to get better. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And like I said, they're so good. I mean, if you want to hear pro wrestling, like you said, you talk to Mark Curry. He's going to talk to Bas Rutten. So if you love MMA interviews, I guarantee you he'll give a great interview on Bas Rutten. Just please go
Stephen Bonner I've interviewed too. Butterbean I just interviewed.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the Butterbean interviews. That was a great interview as well.
Yeah, there's going to be more. Who else? Larry Holmes I've interviewed. I want to do a longer one. Evander Holyfield.
Absolutely.
List goes on. Ken Shamrock, my buddy, who, by the way, he doesn't like me because I complain.
Because you talked about the dick flip. I heard about it.
Yeah, and then he, sent out, a threatening message to me. I don't even think he remembered I'm the same guy that interviewed him.
So for the fans, is he coming back or no?
To
your channel?
No. No. I will not have him back. But yeah, he's a guy. If Bellator wants to pay me $100,000, I'll fight Ken Shamrock.
Would you? Oh, all right. Here's before I let you go. This is a legit. Would you fight Jake Hager $100,000? And it's because he's legit.
He is. He didn't have the greatest performance in his last fight. I interviewed that guy. He fought a bunch of times that you need 3 times in the balls.
I watched it front row. I thought he did a pretty good job, but
yeah. But he's lucky that they didn't disqualify him.
True.
But I don't think he's going to fight again. I think he's happy with his wrestling contract. Would I fight him? I actually don't hate Jake. I actually like him. I've met him. I trained in Deep South Wrestling for a while.
Oh,
but
really?
Would I fight him for the right price? Yes, I would, for sure. I definitely would.
Is him? Yeah, I was gonna say, is him getting the money from the money mark the reason he's probably never gonna fucking fight again? Because I mean, I really enjoyed watching him fight him,
Uh,
but
from what I understand, I don't remember what he got for his last fight, but his first fight, they were building him up well too, giving him opponents
yeah,
suitable. His first fight, he only made like 50 grand. And I'm sure he's getting a lot more than that with his AEW contract. So why bother doing real fighting when you can make more without the
no,
stress?
man, they should just pay Hannibal. Hannibal will make it all legit.
For AEW, I don't want a contract with them.
I
I just want one match.
Well, I wouldn't either because I could beat most of the guys in the roster with my fucking bare hands. So
But yes, I would take that fight. It would be a good fight. I think I've been in more legitimate fights than he has. So we'll see, but
I've watched him fight twice in person, man. He's a tough son of a bitch. I'll give him that. Here's the thing too. He's a fucking athlete. And
he is. I actually, as I said, that would be a good fight, but the price would have to be right for us. But I would
do
do
you
it.
think your striking is higher level than his?
My striking has very much improved over the last couple of years as I've been focusing on my striking. I think I could probably take a punch better than he could, for sure.
We should do that,
I don't know.
actually.
I haven't seen much of his striking because he pretty much wrestled in his fights. So I couldn't tell you.
As he should. He was a fucking, what, a 3-time All-American at U Oak?
Yeah, they weren't. I think his first two, weren't they submissions? And his last one was
One of them was an arm triangle. I don't remember his most recent fight. But I was actually, that's how bad it was. I was there, and I don't remember it.
No, it was a no contest because of the knees.
Yeah, he struck the dude in the groin. You're right.
I haven't seen enough of his striking to tell you if my striking is better. All I can tell you is if I actually had the time to train for it, yes, it would be better. But my striking, I'm working on it every day. I have a dungeon in my basement. I bought a full amateur wrestling mat during the lockdown. I cut it in half. So I have 2 amateur wrestling mats stacked over each other in my basement, and I have a private coach that comes to train with me on my striking once a week, and I train on my own almost daily down there.
Well, you do know that the name of this video is going to be Hannibal challenges Jake Hager to wrestling match or to MMA match. I'm just fucking around.
It's not going to happen with Jake. It would if someone wants to put the money up. We could have a good fight.
I'll do it, but I'll be the promoter. But I need a few people to.
But I would rather fight. Honestly, I'd rather fight someone I dislike than somebody I respect. Because I actually respect Jake. The CM Punks of the world, I don't really respect. So I'd rather actually fight someone that I could have legitimate heat with and really build it up. Of course, I could find a reason to hate Jake, but my dealings with him have not been negative.
So you've met him 1 or 2 times?
When I trained in Deep South Wrestling for 6 weeks, I saw him every single day. So we knew each other. We weren't friends, but we never had any disagreements.
Sure. So you'll be the co-main event when I fight Phil Brooks, or I'm sorry, CM Punk?
I'd rather have the CM Punk fight.
All right, I'll give you him, and I'll main event against Shawn Michaels or whatever. Since I already beat him up, I was the 9 Marines that beat his ass.
There you go.
All right, well, Hannibal, I really do appreciate you coming on the show. It was really interesting stuff, honestly. This is probably one of my favorite podcasts we've done so far. Feel free to plug your shit right now, be a whore, and just tell us where we can find you and all that good stuff.
We're all good. Just subscribe to The Hannibal TV and go to thehannibaltv.com for all your links. And if you follow me at Devin Hannibal on Twitter, just send me a message and I'll follow you back. There's a lot of spam out there these days.
I was one of them. Well, we really do appreciate you coming out, man. This was honestly one of my favorite interviews I've done so far, and I've done interviews for 10 years. So I really,
Excellent. Well, we'll throw it up on our channel too. So have a
absolutely. We
great
can have
night, and thanks for
make
having
sure
us.
you cut out and make sure Hannibal and Riley talk about Ken Shamrock or whatever, you know.
There you go, Ken
um,
Shamrock. What a character he is. I don't know. I would actually like to fight Ken Shamrock more than Jake Hager, even though Shamrock's he's over the hill
50,
now.
54, I think, right?
But I don't like him. He's got a bit of an attitude.
Okay, hold on. We were gonna sign out here, but now we gotta talk about this. So, what the fuck did Ken Shamrock do that got you all pissed off?
No, just that he had the issue with me. I was actually sticking up for him. I said that my comment that I made it was an insult to Ken Shamrock to have him take the flip. He should actually be the champion of your company instead of a girl. And then Ken Shamrock said something like Hannibal better shut up or whatever.
Oh, seriously?
When I was actually on his side.
Well, yeah. I mean, God forbid you want to have a fucking male champion in a major wrestling organization. I mean, Jesus fucking
That's
Christ.
a UFC Hall of Famer. And that was my point. Have the UFC Hall of Famer as your world champion. Have the girl your female champion. But that makes too much sense.
Well, Tessa Blanchard is, the greatest wrestler in history, so.
She is the best heel out there today of a female, though. I'll give her that.
Is she better than MJF?
Of any wrestler that's a female right now.
Oh, female. I was gonna say, is she better than MJF? Because me and my dad are huge MJF marks. Let's just put it that way.
As I said, I haven't seen enough of them, but we'll see. But thanks for having me on. Wish you a good night, and your viewers, go to thehannibaltv.com and subscribe to The Hannibal TV on YouTube.
Yeah, we'll make sure they do that. So, again, Hannibal, thank you very much for dropping on. This, like I said, this has actually probably been my favorite interview. I just kind of sat back and just let it happen. So for Hannibal, the greatest pro wrestler there is right now, in my opinion, I am Riley Contek saying, continue watching fights, continue watching pro wrestling. Go fuck yourselves. Have a good night.